For me, the disruptive business model is something, either a process or an innovation or an initiative or an action that actually redefines the way you do things. Whether it's changing a process, whether it's introducing a whole new space in which you operate, or if it's just a whole new way of thinking about even the same problem, but in a completely different way. So basically anything that makes you uncomfortable, it could be a great model for a disruptive business model. I think you see this every day now. It's been happening for a long time. You see guys like Uber or Airbnb, even guys like Anaplan or Talia. A lot of these guys are disrupting stuff on the online space, mainly because they're taking advantage of the newer technology that's available. They're not necessarily building things that are brand new, but they may be thinking about a problem a completely different way, creating a whole new market for themselves, and then taking advantage of that market space, whether you're ready for it or not. So you're seeing a lot of these guys are basically developing models that engage people in a completely different way, in a different way, but in a very familiar process. And that's creating a lot of excitement in the space because it's actually creating what a lot of people are calling now a shared economy, where collaboration becomes collaboration of economies, collaboration of resources, collaboration of ideas, and collaboration on execution is becoming really the model that's really creating the disruption in the market. And these organizations, whether they're startups or corporate organizations or public sector, are taking full advantage of it because it creates new markets or new opportunities for them. Yeah, I mean, it's funny you asked that. It was basically a blog I wrote almost 3 years ago when I first arrived in Malaysia. The one thing that opened my eyes up was there's just a wealth of information in this country, similar to any other country. It's all sitting idle. It's not being utilized the way it could be utilized. So that's why I wrote it basically to poke and prod the eyes and the ears of anyone who was writing policies or driving initiatives in country, whether they're public or private. I just wanted to see if there was any interest in kind of the business analytics in general. Really what I was driving towards was I saw the passion when it comes to food. I saw what can happen and what can be created as far as an ecosystem, as well as much as entrepreneurship even in the F&B space. And I found it very hard to believe that people couldn't find the same opportunities in the business analytics space, especially when business analytics really becomes the foundation for disrupting markets, ecosystems, companies, process, and people. So I think you won't find your brick and mortars disappearing quickly. They'll go over time. I mean, in a country like Asia is built on brick and mortar. It's people building sustainable business that are very face-to-face, very transactions are happening face-to-face, money is being exchanged hand-to-hand. These businesses will continue to exist and there will always be space for these businesses, but the businesses that are really changing and driving ecosystems will definitely be adopting technology, specifically mobile. So for me, mobile technology will definitely have a huge impact. The reason it has an impact is because it's getting transactions, process, ideas. They're now in the hands of individuals, and they're also on the wrists of individuals, on the necks of individuals when it comes to wearable tech. So these kinds of, you can't avoid it. It's happening. It'll become a bigger and bigger part of your lifestyle. You can already see that being transcended to your kids. My kids are 2 years old and they already have mobile devices. So it's going to happen. It's inevitable, and it's going to have a huge impact. It's a matter of whether you're ready for it or not and how quickly you're going to respond. So to have a mobile strategy, whether it's a mobile first strategy or just a mobile strategy in general, is going to be absolutely vital for businesses to succeed going forward, because that's just the way that information is going to flow. It's going to become more mobile. Data is going to become more mobile. Decisions are going to be done on the go. And people consume stuff in very short spans, and that needs to be available to them as and when in the context that they need it at that moment. Depends on who I'm talking to. If I'm talking to an early adopter, like say a British Telecom or an Orange or some of the big telcos who are really helping drive this disruptive space, they're not so surprised because you know what, they've been talking about this for the last 10 years and they've built strategies for this. If you're talking to the US market and the European market, okay, maybe they've been hearing about it for a while, people have been talking about it, it's been in the media, it's also been in the schools, it's ingrained right at the core levels, and it's kind of been part of your life growing up. You always knew it was going to happen, you didn't know when, now it's here. Okay, well, it's not a huge surprise, so we're not that scared. Now we just need to figure out what to do with it. But if you talk to Asia, then it's a whole different story. So for Asia, it's a bit more of a journey. It may not have been in the forefront as you were going through, say, college, high school, through your educational process, unless you stepped outside of Asia and kind of saw what was happening, unless you followed some of the news that was happening outside the market. And then to adapt that internally when it's a very procurement-based business, agility is definitely not second nature, and to bring new disruptive processes into an existing process is very difficult. It's very, very scary. The kind of the con of that, the wait and see approach, which is what a lot of organizations here are kind of adopting, is very dangerous because they're going to be left far behind. So what they really need to start doing is just embracing it. Embracing and adopting it are two different stories. Embracing it requires education and openness to accept knowledge and collaboration and understanding to create your strategies that you'll eventually deploy. Yes, deployment will require significant change in some organizations, very easy in some more agile organizations, but it has to happen. So you have to have the openness to actually accept it and drive it. You have to have an evangelist internally. What I found is it becomes less scary when you have someone to go to ask for advice and brainstorm with. That doesn't mean you just deal with it internally as an organization. That means you actually you open yourself up to forums and to collaboration groups and to external parties who can actually help drive some of this information sharing to the forefront, make you a lot more comfortable with it, and then make it executable, kind of in a comfort zone where you're ready to execute at the time that you're willing to execute for your organization. Yeah. It's a very tough one. I mean, if we had the answer to that, I'd be investing in every single one. But there are, I mean, obviously, we get thousands of pitches. I mean, I'm part of panels that are selecting startups. We're part of global panels. We're part of local panels in Asia and Malaysia. And we see these technologies all the time. And there's more and more that are coming out, which is very, very promising. Now, how do you select the ones that you bank on? I don't think there's one right answer. I think you kind of have to bank on several. The easier way if you really want to make that process a little less risky, then there's ways to validate. I mean, we run programs where it takes no more than 5 days to validate whether there's a need for it. So very simple questions you ask yourself. Is there a market demand for it? And is someone willing to pay for it? Is that product something that we can build very quickly in a prototype stage? And what are the channels to actually distribute this product? If you can solve those three in probably 3 to 5 days, and you know you have something worth investing your time in. As a VC, I expect those to be done before it's presented to me. When I hear ideas, what I'm really looking for is people for me are the most important. So when I'm investing in a disruptive technology, it's probably the wrong question. I actually invest in disruptive people or disruptive mentalities. And then I fit those mentalities into the markets in which they want to operate within to see if actually there's an opportunity now for these individuals to create something new. And that's what I really invest in. Technologies come secondary because these individuals are actually quite scalable, quite kind of adaptive. It doesn't matter what technology I give them, they will figure out a way to make it work. So that's where I'm probably banking. The ones that we see across coming more and more in this region are very data driven. So back to the third question around whether business analytics is going to be important and whether it's going to make a change, absolutely. And those are the ones that I'm investing in. Also investing in mobile. So again, it goes back to the question around whether mobile tech will have an impact. Absolutely. I know it'll impact people. Do I have the answer as to how it'll impact people? Probably not, but you know what? I'm willing to invest in organizations or companies or startups or companies that are actually willing to drive new ideas through those technologies. And that's the most I can bank on at the moment. And over time, we'll see which ones will actually come to light, which ones will be the most successful. But then when they become successful, they're not really disruptive anymore because it's happened. This disruption has happened. So you'll be asking me this again in a few months' time or 6 months' time or a year's time as to what's the next disruptive technology in that market space.